You talked about how for years you were saying how all these major labels were like talking to you about signing you, but you actually said you were actually lying this whole time until later. But you kind of faked it till you made it in a way where you know what I'm talking about?
Like I expressed that there was more interest in me from major labels than there was.
Basically.
I said something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah,
I think it was on Bootleg Kev. You're like, listen, I never said this before, but I was lying when I was saying all these labels were hitting me.
Well, like...
And I'm cool with that. Like, I don't see a problem with that.
Yeah, that's more like in the sense of going into like a meeting and being like, yeah, I got these 5 other jobs that want me.
Right.
So in that sense, lying makes it sound like harsh, but yeah, definitely I would express to people that there was more interest from situations trying to sign me than there was. Yeah.
Now, you yourself, you've never been on a major label.
Never.
You've always been independent to this point. So you're signed under Jadakiss, but you guys are independent.
Yeah, we just do distro deals.
Right. Empire or other?
I got a pub deal with Empire.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I know Ghazi. Good people.
My dog.
When you look at what's happening with Drake right now, and he's suing Universal, and like people like Kanye are saying like this is going to be like a watershed moment where it's like all artists that are under this huge Universal umbrella might actually benefit, because it seems like there might be some underhanded tactics of pumping up streams and making things seem a certain type of way that they really are not. What is your take on that?
Which part specifically?
I mean, when you look at what major labels do you think that what Universal or, the Sony system does, do you think that the streams are real streams? Or do you think these labels actually pump up these numbers for artists that they like, which is basically what he's accusing them of? He's saying that Kendrick's numbers were pumped up artificially and so forth in order to make it look a certain type of way.
I think the music industry has been pumping up sales, streams, accolades since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
I think that probably in the 1920s or whenever the fuck they had records for sale, that the labels probably would run in and buy all the vinyls out of the store and say this is the #1 record. I think that's a historical practice of the music industry. But shit still gotta be hot. Drake is hot as shit right now. He got a song booming through all of this. Kendrick's hot as shit right now.
Was there a reason why you didn't try to go the major label route?
Lack of interest, and then you get that royalty check and you understand. I didn't even understand the difference between a major and being indie until I got a check, and then I was like, what am I getting the check for? And they're like, oh no, this is what Blanco 4 made. For real? This is crazy. And then I realized, if I signed to a major, they would have just gave me money and that would have been a one-time payment. Now I got Blanco 4, Blanco 5, Blanco 6, Blanco 7 out now. And that money so whatever Blanco 4 made me, that made me open my eyes wide, I saw that off Blanco 5, and then I'm starting to do the calculations and going like, damn, I own this shit. This is no different than owning a house, multiple houses. So people be talking about, go get some real estate, bro. I got real estate on Apple Boulevard, Spotify Drive, all of that shit.
Yeah.
And people that sit here and go, streaming don't pay. Because you're on a major label, streaming don't pay.
Well, look, VladTV used to be in the Universal building. We were part of, SRC in a certain type of way. So I got to see how the machine functioned, behind the lights and the cameras and everything else like that. It's a give and take. You'll get if you're a hot artist, you'll get a big check, but that check is a loan.
Yeah.
If you get...
And that's the last one you see.
A lot of times, yeah.
Unless you keep getting hot. And that's exactly the deal. And that's the scary part. So it's like being independent, I would love the major looks. Don't get it twisted. I'd love to do Jimmy Fallon show. I'd love to do the NBA All-Star Weekend. I'd love to be put at all the Paris Fashion Week shit that you get from the PR that you get with them. I'd love to collaborate with all the artists they put. I'd love my song to be going up in every club and having 400,000 dumped behind a song. I would love that. But the other side of that coin is that if you get on a major label, you take that advance, your first record flops, your second record flops, now they reel that budget back. Now you have to dig yourself out of that hole. Whereas me, independently, because nobody gave me an advance and nobody's controlling my budget, I have a small budget to work with, but I can keep dropping. I could try 20 times to make something happen. Whereas on a major, if you fail once, twice, thrice, you're done. Or you're gonna have to find an investor or some other sort of situation where you can start dropping because they're gonna shelf you and go on to their new artist.
Yeah, it's a tough decision, depending on where you are. Like I remember, I've been interviewing Riff Raff for a long time, right? So
shouts to Riff Raff.
Yeah, shouts to Riff Raff. And I remember, Diplo called me one day. It was like, hey, listen, I got this new artist named Riff Raff. Can you interview him as a favor? And I'm like, I looked him up. I'm like, yeah, this dude seemed like, he's a character. He's talented. Like, cool. And he was signed to a major label at that point through Diplo. And I remember in our last interview, we talked about this, about how he dropped an album. It was well received. And he's like, okay, I'm ready to drop another one. And they're like, no, hold on. Like, let's keep working on this next project until we get it to the quality level that we want to get it to. And listen, Diplo is a monster at what he does. So it's not like he doesn't know what he's doing. But then that created sort of like, well, no, I just want to drop. Like, I don't want to wait a year or two before my next project. So he ended up getting off the label and going independently. And he's like, I don't know if that was really the right choice, because my next few projects didn't really do those big numbers that the first one did. And you see this, like for example, like being at SRC, I remember talking to Steve Rifkin, and he explained to me how when he first signed Akon, nobody was fucking with him, right? Remember that song Locked Up?
Mm-hmm.
He put Akon on a promo tour for a year and a half until people finally started to like the song. So think about how much money it took. Yeah. City to city,
to break
airplane tickets, hotels, go to the airport. You need a rep in that city to take you around. All these people are getting paid.
I know.
The record is selling 0 copies at this point. But Steve believed in it, and he probably invested 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 in it. And then, of course, Akon becomes the biggest thing in the world, and all that money comes back 100-fold. But for every Akon, there was like 10 dudes that he put all this money into that went nowhere. And that's the problem with the record industry, is that, like, and people don't like to talk about this part because it's like, oh, I blew up and I made no money. Well, for every 10 artists that a major puts out, 9 of them will probably flop. That one will go crazy, and the deal has to be set up to make up for those losses. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But you're hard-pressed to really find independent artists who go #1 on these Billboard charts, because the promo required to do that. I remember when I interviewed Mac Miller for the first time, I think his first project was, I believe, the first independent hip-hop album to go #1 on the Billboard charts. Remember how hot he was when he first dropped? And that was like, everyone just stood back and was like, wow, this has never happened. So yes, you get unicorns that happen like this sometimes, but when you look at the Billboard charts, how many of those are independent artists?
Right.
One or two, maybe, if you're lucky.
That's why
every artist, Universal, Interscope, Atlantic, Sony, Universal, 300, that's distributed by someone else. Like, it's just like that over and over again. So the thing is that by going through a major, you could get these songs that are these huge anthems, and you'll be able to tour off them for the next decade, and you get all that tour money, but you just don't get any record sales money.
Yeah.
So what do you want? Do you want potentially a longer career, or do you want to have all the money up front?
Yeah. Yeah, man. I really think it just goes for the person and shit. But I'm not ruling majors out forever.
Have you had like a solid offer from a major?
We about to find out.
Okay. So you may sign.
I don't know.
If it's the right deal, there's, you know, if it's the right deal, it's the right deal.
I feel like I'm such a star, it would be cool to have like that. And my foundation's built on concrete. It's not built on sand, you know what I mean? My shit don't come and go with the waves. So it's like, it would be cool for me to have a song. And I got so many girls that tell me, man, you just need a bop. And I'm like, yeah, but the bop costs a lot, you know? So, but we'll figure it out. It'd be cool either way it go.
Yeah. So what's next for you?
Man, just more music and seeing what endeavors I'm gonna get into as far as, you know, acting and just being a superstar all around. Putting artists on, you know, different people.
Well, Millyz, man, I'm glad you finally came in and did the interview with me in person.
For sure.
You know, this is something I've been wanting to do for a while. I hit you up.
It was cool. You didn't even give me all type of police questions and shit, man. You get a bad rap, man. That's fucked up.
People give me a hard time, man. People give me a hard time, and really, it's unwarranted. You know, it's really unwarranted. But to see someone like yourself, like I really see some of my story in you. You know, to move to New York with just a head full of dreams, with no one believing in you. I remember my own mother didn't believe in me. I remember she took me to the airport and she said, "You're wasting your life. You're trying to run from responsibility." And I remember I started crying as a grown man. I'm crying in the car, hearing my mother talk down to me like I'm a bum. Can you relate to this?
Nah, hell no.
Nah? Okay. Well,
I love my mom. You sound like you got a hard Ukrainian mom.
I got a hard Ukrainian
like,
mom. Right. My mom called me a bum on the way to the airport, moving to New York with a I was dead broke. I was sleeping on couches, essentially homeless. You know, on Church and East 18th in Brooklyn. And the thing is, man, like, you got to see that dream. It doesn't matter if everyone around you doesn't see it. You have to see it. And you also can't get mad at people who don't see your dream and put you on early on. I see a lot of dudes.
Yeah, no, I don't get mad with nobody, bro. That's like, you know, I look at it like everybody's gonna spin back, bro. I used to hit you. I remember going up to an interview with China Mac. I was like, yo, Vlad, interview me, but it wasn't the right time then.
It wasn't the right time then.
When you hit me just now, I was like, yeah, of course, it makes sense. It's synchronicity.
Right. And I admire your maturity, because there's been other rappers, like let's say Troy Ave, for example, that would, like, when they started to buzz and I would reach out to him, it'd be like, well, you didn't want to fuck with me then, so fuck you now. And it's like, well, I didn't want to fuck with you then because you didn't have a fan base yet. Yeah, Free Taxstone.
Free Taxstone.
Exactly, Free Taxstone. That's my friend. You know? But it's like, you see these people who, like, yeah, I'm still mad at you that you didn't see my dream, so I'm going to be bitter and angry when I actually have an opportunity handed to me.
I don't care. I know it's motion, and it's all God.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But it's motion and it's God.
Well, listen, man, congratulations on where you got, man, and I feel like you have a long ways still to go. And
appreciate it.
Congratulations on the grind and really seeing through your vision and your dream, because everyone's got dreams.
Yeah.
But there's very few people that actually put in the work. Like, nobody put you on. Like, you didn't just, like, get discovered one day on the train and you get a record deal and this big cosign. Everything you got, you got to work your ass off to get.
I earned this shit.
You earned everything. You deserve all the accolades. You deserve every chain, every fan, every cheer, every car, every house, every girl. You know, you've earned that shit, man. And I wish you all the best.
Nah, I appreciate you, bro.
That's what it is.
For sure.
Peace.